Hello, welcome to the video. My name is Brian. So, the last couple of videos I have done on MGTOW have been describing a problem of why men are walking away from dating and marriage. And I think we nailed it pretty good. But I'm the type of person that I don't just leave a problem and complain about it. I try to find solutions. So I've been spending a lot of time asking myself several questions. Number one would be, what would it take for me to get back into the dating and marriage scene? What things would have to change for that to happen, for me to even consider that? And I came up with 2 lines of serious changes that need to be made. And one of them is our legal system, and one of them is our social system. Now, to let you know how bad the situation truly is, in my opinion, none of these things are ever going to happen. So, MGTOW is never going to change, in my opinion. Pardon me. But that does not mean we should not have the conversation. Now, firstly, I want to cover the laws and possible suggestions to change laws that would make it the laws not from 1950s and 60s applying to our society in 2025. Because that's what's happening. Now, as an example, let's talk about the first one. No child support. Let's just do away with child support. I hear everybody dropping a mic out there. I look at it this way. If a husband and wife are married, and they get married for the right reasons, and with the right attitude, and with the right commitment, there will be no need for child support. And if something happens and they do get divorced, in today's society, men and women make the same amount of money. And if they don't, they have the ability to do that. When both spouses work in comparable incomes, and 78% of divorces are done by women, so they leave, how does it possibly make fair that the man has to pay for the wife? He didn't do anything to make her quit, or make her leave, or make her take the kids. She made that decision on her own. So if you make that decision on your own, then you better figure out a way to pay for the kids. How about this as the law change number 2? How about we don't talk about custody for the kids? It's 50-50. Now you can work out your week, my week, or how many days of the week, and holidays and all that. But it should not be an automatic default that the woman gets kids. You have 2 parents. You have the same number of days in each week. Figure it out. 50-50. Here's another one. Number 3. Let's get rid of no-fault divorce. No-fault divorce is an open invitation for one party to take advantage of the other party financially. Let's go back to the way it used to be. If you got married and you wanted a divorce from your spouse, you had to have reason. You can't just willy-nilly decide to leave and then cash in all the cash and prizes. That's not marriage, that's a career move. Here's an idea. Let's get rid of alimony. Does anybody out there even know what alimony was intended for? Alimony was intended back in the 50s and 60s that when a man divorced a woman, she had grown accustomed to a certain style of living, and alimony was to facilitate her continuing to support the kids, and to live in the life that she had become accustomed to with her husband. That doesn't apply today. Women make as much as men. If they want the lifestyle, let them go get the money. There's no need for alimony. How about this one? How about you leave the marriage with what you come with, and everything else gets sold and divided down the middle? That should be automatic normal. No attorneys, no judges. I came in with the retirement account that had this much in it. That's what I'm taking. I had my furniture, I had my vehicle. I'm taking all of that with me. The rest of my retirement fund, fine, I'll liquidate it and you get half. Unless you worked and you have your own retirement, then you keep yours and I'll keep mine. Again, women are making the same as men. So if retirement was important to her, she should have a good retirement. And if it's not important to her, then what does she need with his? Come on now. Number 6, here's a big one. The division of the debt evenly. In what world does it make sense that the man has to make the house payment while she lives there and he leaves? That's the dumbest damn thing I've ever heard. Now, in the 1950s, again, tying back to alimony, that made sense. Doesn't make sense today. If she wants a house, she go get her own damn house. You divide the debt. If we got the house after we got married, we sell the house. If we got the furniture after we got married, we sell the furniture. This is not hard. The laws and the lawyers and the judges have made this complicated. This is not complicated. You dissolve the marriage, you dissolve everything in the marriage. You leave with what you came with. This is not hard. Now, to say that and have no legal recourse doesn't do much. So we need to change the law. Any spouse that runs the debt up and leaves the other person with it, or files bankruptcy and ruins the other spouse's credit, they go to jail. How many times have you heard of one spouse planning a divorce without telling the other one and running up all the debt, buying a new car, getting a new wardrobe on the credit cards, buying a new freezer, buying a new car, and then when she leaves the marriage, then she goes and gets an attorney and makes him pay for it. The laws are not suitable to the year 2025. Number 8. Now here's a big one. My son went through a divorce, and he was astounded when he got into court and found that the judge took her side on just about everything. He kept saying, well, it's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair. And I kept trying to explain to him that in the courtroom, that judge is God. There is no appealing. You don't get to appeal the judge. He's God. So what we need to do is to restrict that. You don't get to do that. You have no authority. All the judge should be is a referee. Are you leaving with what you brought to the marriage? Are you liquidating everything after you were married? And how are you going to make sure that it's divided evenly after it's liquidated? That's all the judge should be doing. He should not be determining that the man has to pay half of the child support, half of the parochial school bill, 25% child support, half of the mortgage and her car payment and all the credit card bills. I mean, this is insanity. And people wonder why men are walking away from marriage. As I said in the other two videos, the things that I'm talking about are done on purpose. The people making the laws are not stupid. They have a purpose. And if the purpose isn't plain to you yet, go back and watch my first video. Now here's another one. And this applies not only to marriage, but it applies also to just laws in general. If a man comes to court and accuses a woman of anything, and come to find out he lied, he pays consequences. Women never pay consequences. Let me refresh your memory. When Donald Trump was president the first time, and he was getting those judges appointed, do you remember all the women coming in and saying that he raped me? That judge raped me when I was in high school, and it was terrible and it was traumatic, and I don't want to face it in public, but I'll make a video. You remember all that crap? What happened to those women? We found out they lied. All of them lied. What happened to them? Nothing. There was a judge down in Louisiana who was running for the Senate, and he was a shoo-in. Everybody loved this guy. But the Democrats had two women come up and say that he raped them when they were minors. That's minors. And they timed it in such a way that there could be no research before the election. He lost the election, and the women just disappeared. Nothing ever happened to him. Here's what should happen. Whatever these women accuse the men of doing, when they find out that they lied, they need to get that sentence. You accused him of raping you when you were a minor, and the sentence for that is 40 years in jail. Guess what, young lady? You just got 40 years in jail. Now you do that a couple of times and give it airplay, that'll knock that shit off right now. I woke up to these realities 25 years ago. I can't believe it took society this long to catch up. The only thing that surprises me more than anything is that there are still men getting married. And here's the last, number 10, last and final idea that I had on the legal part. Let's find the hell out of divorce. You want to get a divorce? That's going to cost you 25% of your net worth. From both of them. That'll knock that shit off pretty quick. And I said in the beginning that there was two parts, the legal and the social. Let's talk about some of the social things that, again, I asked myself these questions. Let's assume for a minute that all the legal things that I just talked about happened, okay? They never will, but let's assume. What type of social things would need to happen for me to even be remotely interested in getting back in the dating and marriage scene. But more importantly, how can society perpetuate and make marriage great again, for a better term? Marriage used to be the bedrock of this country. Now it's a game. Now it's a career choice. So number one thing, in my opinion, that would need to happen is our entire social structure would need to return to God. And by that I mean, let's have prayer in school. Let's bring the Ten Commandments back to all the legal buildings in the country. And here's a big one. How about we bring God back to the Democratic Party? God has been out of the Democratic Party since the first election of Barack Hussein Obama. And if you didn't know that, go fact check me. Number two. Up until the 1960s, there was very delineated roles that men and women played. And the main outcome of the women's role was the moral arbiter of the country. Everybody understood that men were pigs, okay? But the women were the gatekeepers. Starting in the late 1960s, the women became pigs. There are no moral gatekeepers anymore. If you don't remember the hippie movement, go do your research. Free love was the saying. Free love. That got rid of the moral arbiters in our society. And today, it's almost reversed. And that's why MGTOW is happening. Because the men have to be the ones that have the morals in the relationship. The women are bigger pigs than men. Number three. Let's get relationships back to being about love. And if you don't know what love is, go read the Bible. It tells you very plainly. There's 13 characteristics of love. If you don't know what they are, then you have no business being married. And God tells you very specifically God's definition of love. I don't see any marriages fitting those criteria. Love is a choice. Love is a commitment. Go read them. Now here's a big one that's been debated. No dating apps. And the reason the dating apps are bad, in my opinion, is because 99% of the females are chasing 5% of the men. Dating apps do two things. They make it easy for the Chads and Tyrones, and it bumps the ego of women. Let's get rid of the dating apps. Number 5. In order for me to get back into the dating scene, I would have to see visible proof that parents are teaching traditional values in the family. And by traditional values, let me explain a little. Marriage is for life. Marriage is about love. And love is not what Satan and society calls love. It's not about being in heat. The biblical definition of love. Let's teach traditional values to our kids. You get married for life. You treat your woman with respect and honor. And you treat your man with honor and respect. Number 6. Now here's a radical idea. The reason that marriages are arbitrated in court before a judge is because it's a legal binding contract. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it is. So today, Gen Zers are living together instead of marriage. Now, they did not invent that. That's been going on forever. And it was big in the 60s and 70s. I've been there, done that. We did it, in my generation, we did it to see if we were compatible. Today they do it so they have to protect their assets. So let's make marriage illegal. Again, your microphone just dropped. But let's make marriage illegal. But let's get back to civil unions. You have a ceremony, you have a dress, you have a party, you have no signed contracts. You have witnesses, no signed contracts. And if you do that, you have to get rid of common law marriage. Because there are some states that if you live together for 7 years, the state will consider you married and still divide cash and prizes for the female. So we got to get rid of that. Number 7. Here's another radical idea. The cash and prizes that females are given now, since when they were decided, women didn't work, now they do. Let's reverse it. Let's say that men get all the child support, men get all the alimony, men get all the children. Men get 50% of her assets because she's working too. Let's get back to making marriage about a relationship and not a transaction. And the last and final social construct that is going to have to change for me and a lot of men to even consider getting back into the dating and marriage pool is this. Let's talk about men's rights. Even when I was in college, this concept that I'm about to describe to you made absolutely no sense at all to me. The women today like to say, my body, my choice, when it comes to ending the life of an unborn person. The problem with that argument is the life you're ending is not your body. That's the first argument. Second one is, you didn't do this all by your damn self. It takes two to tango. So explain to me why men have no say at all if the woman wants to get an abortion. In what world does that freaking make sense? She would have no baby if it was not my sperm. Just because it's in her body does not make it hers. It makes it ours. We should have a vote. And if you come to an agreement, then you need to sign a document, both of you agreeing that she should get an abortion. And if you can't come to an agreement, the baby stays with the mom until it's born. And then you put it up for adoption. Again, this is not hard. We talk about men's rights. Let's talk about men as caregivers. Now, that's not, I am not built that way. I can't do that. I'm terrible at that. And I know that and I admit that. However, that does not mean, again, that we should not have the conversation. There are some men that absolutely love being the caregivers. Why is it automatically the default of the courts that the woman gets support, or the woman gets custody of the kids, and now we debate back and forth about visitation. Why are we having that conversation? Let's have the conversation of who should be the caregiver. Right now, the best a man can do is joint. And up until just a few years ago, the default was the female gets the kids. That is not open for debate. Unless you can prove that she's a whore, a drug addict, or a danger to herself or the kids. The default was she was the caregiver, and now we're going to debate about how much the male gets to see the kids. And oh, by the way, no matter what we decide, he's paying 25% child support to the female. Explain to me what logical thinking male would enter into that type of a contract. It ain't me. I can see that I'm running low on time, so I want to wrap this up in such a way that you understand how bad this situation is. There are several times as I went through this that you went, oh, wow. And if you didn't, I want you to go back and I want you to think about some of the things I talked about. Like making marriages illegal. If we made marriages illegal, 99% of all my issues would go away. Because there'd be no contract. There would be no basis for suit in court. There would be no need for the judges. There would be no need to debate about child support or visitation or anything. This should not be hard. If you get married for the right reasons, for life, with that mate, and something happens and you have to get divorced, then you walk away with what you came in with. You liquidate everything that happened in the marriage: house, car, furniture, properties, businesses. You liquidate it all and have the money put into trust and divided 50-50. That's fair. I would not debate that at all. The problem is that ain't the way it's done. Even if the man comes into the marriage with assets, and then they accumulate assets, and then they get divorced, now the judge is God. In the divorce court, judge is God. He determines who gets the retirement you had before you went into the marriage. He gets to determine who keeps the house and who lives there and who makes the payments. He's God. In that courtroom, that judge is God, and we need to eliminate that. Let's get back to making this stuff simple, common sense. If we did that, most men would come back. Because I got to tell you, the perspective has completely flipped. The script has flipped on men. When I was growing up, women got married for love, and so did men. And I know that because I got married twice. Today, men aren't getting married. And when women get married, they're getting married as a career choice. They're not getting married for love. If we go back to the, I'm running out. High value men, women don't, if you ask a woman high value, she never talks about the individual. She talks about things. Well, I can see I'm out of time. We'll talk later.